What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another art video by yours truly. And this one is going to be another awesome full illustration video. So yeah, if you like what you are watching and you got something out of this, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts down below, and let's get right into it. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of thumbnailing out my idea on this first page right here, and this trick really helps me a lot because it allows me to get my idea down pretty fast and not actually fully commit to a drawing without having some sort of plan. So I really do like thumbnailing. Also, look at these cool pencil tricks I'm doing. Yeah, but anyways, so that was that, and here we go. I'm gonna lay out the perspective grid. And right here, this is actually very cool trick I recently learned. So you're gonna see me line these boxes here, and doing this is really nice because I can get an idea of how big something is going to be before actually drawing it. And that's why I lay down those boxes there. So now I have an idea of the position and sizing of everything that I'm gonna draw before I actually draw it. Very helpful trick that's just helped me so much, and I just got it randomly off of like something I saw on Twitter. It was yeah, helped me a lot. I highly recommend that trick with the boxes. But yeah, so I'm just gonna be sketching in the initial sketch, obviously, and this is not much really to talk about here, just sketching in the initial sketch, like I said. I guess to talk a little bit about the drawing. I know that I usually, I'm more of a manga / anime kind of drawing channel, but I also really do like video games, and in particular, I like Pokemon. And to be more specific, I really like the old Pokemon games, and I just recently finished a playthrough of Pokemon Whyt 2 version for the DS. So yeah, I just got inspired to draw something from it, and that's actually another video I want to do, is inspiration for art and what that means and stuff like that, but that's for another topic. So got the initial sketch down, and now I'm moving on to the background, and this is very interesting because of what I am drawing. Where this scene takes place is in a ruins underground. So you have these like cool pillars and these like ancient markings and stuff on the walls and on the floor, and really unique floor pattern and stuff like that. So this is probably the most challenging part overall, because it's very easy when you're doing a drawing or like a background like this. It's very easy to mess up and have that mistake stand out, because in perspective, when you're doing like a background or a floor or a building like this, everything has to be kind of consistent. So if you mess up that consistency, it'll really stand out. And you're gonna see later, the background was definitely the hardest thing about this drawing, which is really interesting. You'd think it'd be the main characters and whatnot, but no, it was actually the background. So yeah, now we're just moving on here, doing the more finished sketch, and not much to say about this, except for the fact that this drawing was actually, besides the background, was pretty easy, which is really weird because I was expecting this to be really difficult just because of the scale of these drawings, these bigger drawings that I do, but it actually wasn't, and I don't know, it's just really strange. So here we go. I am just, like I said, doing the initial sketch here, and now I am drawing the Pokemon Superior. By the way, best starter in Generation 5, if you even know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like I said, I know that I'm more of like an anime / manga channel, but I also really do love video games, and in particular Pokemon. So let me know if you guys are interested in more like video game kind of drawings, or what, just let me know your thoughts. But yeah, so Superior is a very kind of basic Pokemon in terms of its shapes, so it's pretty easy to draw. It's just a long cylinder essentially. So not many troubles there. And here we're moving on to the trainer, who I thought I was going to struggle with the most because it's at an awkward angle, and humans are very complex. But surprisingly, no, it kind of went smooth. Obviously I did use reference. You should always use reference. Well, not always, but like, you should be studying from reference a lot and having reference when you're doing these kind of bigger drawings, because obviously I didn't know what Superior fully looked like, or the Pokemon in the middle, Volcarona, fully looked like. So I did have some reference off to the side. Very, very important. So yeah, we kind of just finished the finalized sketch here, and I believe we should be moving on to the inking. Oh yeah, so I'm drawing the hand right here, and this hand was bothering me, so I redrew it a couple times. I feel like it was too small, and then it was in the wrong position. But I get it, at least somewhat, after about the third try. And then we should be moving on to the inking. Now, the inking is really interesting because I wasn't sure what tool I wanted to use, if I wanted to use the microns or the brush. And I eventually settled on the brush because I love inking with the brush more. And the biggest reason I love inking with the brush on this paper is that it gives me those deep blacks, those really deep blacks that the micron doesn't. If you use a micron before, it kind of makes this like grayish color, especially when you, or value. It makes this grayish value, especially when you erase over it. So I was really nervous about the inking. And by the way, we haven't even started inking yet. But before we get into that, yeah, I was really nervous about inking this drawing with a brush, because brush is really hard to use. It really is. And I just don't nearly have as much control as I do with a micron. Also, if you didn't notice, I erased a little bit around the Volcarona in the middle there. That's just a trick I learned from reading manga. Is mangaka or manga artists, they tend to erase a little bit around the character they're drawing to kind of make it stand out a little easier. So you're gonna see a lot of that. I did it with all three characters. I don't have the lines fully connect, and that's done on purpose so that it doesn't clash with the characters, because I want you to look at the characters before the background, and that's important to make sure you get make sure your image reads properly or in a way that you want. So I think right here should be finishing up the background. Like how I said we were going to ink and we didn't, but here we go. So yeah, we're going to the inking now. As you can see, I'm using the brush, and whenever I do these bigger drawings, I like to have the page to the side kind of just be like a empty page where I can test my brush or whatever I'm inking with to see what how dark the line is going to be from the ink. So that's why the page next to it is completely blank. But yeah, you can see I'm going way slower because this video is sped up by 8 times. This footage is sped up by 8 times. And by the way, this drawing took me about 2 hours. I took breaks in between, so in total probably about 3. But in terms of like the footage I had, it was about 2 hours, if you're curious. So yeah, I was really nervous inking with the brush, especially if you look, I didn't ink the eyes on Volcarona there because I was so nervous that I was going to mess him up. And I was debating if I should use the microns for the eyes because I just have way more control. But eventually I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to use the brush, and it turns out, it works out. So that's good. But yeah, as you can see, I really like the deep black that the brush gives, man. It's so satisfying inking with the brush. So if I were to use microns, not only would the lines be thinner, they wouldn't be as dark. And I want these nice, rich, dark lines. And that's another thing about microns, or the micron I have. It's a very thin micron. And as I was saying before, I want you guys to look at the characters first before the background, and the way we can manipulate that, or manipulate what your viewer looks at, is by line thickness. So a thicker line is going to attract more attention than a thinner line. And that's actually very important, because when I get to inking the background, I actually do use my micron. Not only because I wanted a thinner line, but inking this whole background with a brush, just the way it is, would just be so difficult. So I go for the micron here, as you can see, and this is interesting because I use the ruler. I don't really use a ruler when I'm doing like perspective. Oh, there's my head, by the way. Yeah, go away. I don't really use a ruler when I'm doing perspective, and I probably should, because what's funny is that doing this background, even though I intended for it to be in 1 point perspective, if you kind of look at the floor, it kind of it looks like I was doing fisheye perspective. Like you can see the lines are kind of curving into that circular shape, and I had no intention of actually doing that. I wanted it to be in just 1 point perspective through and through. So using the ruler actually showed me that I kind of messed up the perspective. So I'm definitely going to be using a ruler to at least check if I'm drawing in the correct perspective from now on. But yeah, that was kind of funny, because when I was sketching out that background, I really thought that everything was in 1 point perspective, and then I used the ruler and I'm like, wait, my lines do not match up at all. So that's kind of funny there. But yeah, so the background, is probably the most like tedious part. As you can see here, I just going really slow, and making sure the lines all line up. And like I was saying before, if you look at the lines near the characters or the Pokemon, I don't fully connect them. That's on purpose, because I don't want the background to clash with the characters. But yeah, the background took a while. It wasn't hard. It just, when you're doing floors like this in perspective like this, it's very easy if you draw in the wrong perspective. Like if you have, let's say, a big chunk of your drawing in 1 point perspective, and then you accidentally like mess up a part of it, that mistake is going to really stand out, because perspective needs to be very consistent for it to look correct. So if you look, you will see I have a little bit of mistakes in the floor, and I kind of feel like the background is the weakest part of this drawing. I really want to get better at doing backgrounds and shading in general. When we get to that, definitely feel like I could have done or that's the weakest part of this drawing. But either way, I really like how it turned out. I didn't think it was going to turn out this well. I really didn't. And it was also really not that difficult, which was another thing that really surprised me. Oh, and look at this. So I really like doing this. So I took my brush pen, and I really like doing this cool like border effect thing. I don't know. I just take the brush pen and I just go crazy on the edge here. And you can see the paper starting to warp because of all the ink, which is funny. But yeah, so we pretty much have the whole drawing here done, besides the shading. And I should be coming in here with an eraser. This is always really scary to do. And there's my head again. I wear glasses, by the way. I gotta make sure I don't do that again. But yeah, it's always scary erasing, because I don't want to ruin the page. And I'm sure you guys, if you draw traditionally, you've had those moments where you're erasing the page and then you accidentally put a nice dent in it. So I was really nervous about that. And I know I said I wasn't like, this drawing was easy, but I was still nervous. Like I thought it was going to be way harder than it actually was. But here we go. I'm going in with the shading, just using the micron. And like I said, this is where I feel like I kind of fumbled, especially on the background. I'm definitely going to get better at shading, because I feel like this drawing would be so much better if I shaded it better. That kind of sounded weird, like shaded it. But yeah, so just, and another thing is I didn't really know where to put the light source, so I decided to make the Volcarona the light source. And that's why the shadows are where they are. And it's funny because if this was like a real place in real life, like it would be like completely dark because it's a ruins underground, so light would be really hard to get in. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, here we go, just using the brush pen here. Yeah, I definitely need to get better at shading, and if only I was better. No, I'll get better, and it's definitely one of my next goals. But yeah, we're coming up to the end here. We're pretty close, just doing some finishing touches. And I come in with this alcohol marker that I got just for these gray tones, just to kind of give it a little extra spice. And yeah, that is going to do it for this drawing, pretty much. So if you guys, enjoyed the video, if you got something out of it, let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like, and I'm glad to be back. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Why am I showing? Oh yeah, here's all the tools I used. Yeah, woohoo. What is wrong with me? I don't know why I'm doing this, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and bye bye.